Last week on my channel, I talked about playing hot licks with native and non-native time feels, but what does that mean and why should we care? Today we find out. Well, hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Most of our hottest and shreddiest licks that we unleash on our listeners are tied to some sort of a sequence or pattern moving through a scale. And most of those sequences are tied to a pretty basic number, like 3 or 4. For example, walking up 3 notes in the scale and then back 1. Most of the time, sequences that are based around the number 3, like this one, will get played as triplets, meaning 3 notes per beat, like this. 1, 2, triplet, triplet. Meanwhile, sequences that are based around the number 4, like this popular yin yang milkshake 1-string lick, get played as 16th notes or 4 notes per beat, like this. 1, 2, 3 and a 4 and a. Patterns that are based around 3 natively feel like triplets or sextuplets, which is 6 per beat or 2 triplets per beat. Patterns that are based around the number 4 typically have a native time feel of 16th notes or 4 per beat. But that doesn't mean that we're stuck using those licks with that time feel all the time. We can translate it over to a non-native time feel, and a lot of times you end up with a lick that is more interesting and less predictable than using its native time feel that it was designed for. In this video, I'm going to show you a couple of really popular scale sequences and stuff that we can translate from native to non-native time feels to add in some variety into your playing and help you gain a lot more rhythmic command of the instrument. The great thing about this too is if you get used to playing licks with native and non-native time feels, you essentially double your shred lick vocabulary, because you can have a particular sequence that you really like that you can play as triplets, and then later on play that exact same pattern as 16th notes, and the listener won't even know it's the same thing. A lot of these sound drastically different whenever you import them over to their non-native time feel. So by practicing this, you're going to get a lot more mileage out of them hot licks. As always, downloadable tabs, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and so much more are available to everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. This week, in addition to the downloadable tabs, all of my patrons, even at just a $1 a month level, get access to a bevy of backing tracks to help you practice these native and non-native time feel licks. I'll be uploading all those practice tracks at a variety of different tempos, as well as the MIDI files. That way you can import them into your DAW and make your own perfect practice session. All this stuff, plus an awesome community of cool people like you, is waiting for you over on that Patreon page. So click the link in the video description below and sign up today. Thanks. Gear-wise for today's video, I'm playing my lovely Sir Modern Satin here, right into the brand new Paul Reed Smith Archon 50. This amp just hit the market and I am nuts about it. It sounds so good on both channels. Expect to see a lot more of this thing in my future videos. And I'm running that lovely amp into the Sir RLIR box, which is like a load box and speaker simulator. That way I don't have to mic anything up or piss off my neighbors. Really easy to use unit. I love this thing for home recording. And so can you. I think a perfect way to get into playing stuff with non-native time feels is just to practice your good old 4-note per string chromatic exercise. This one right here. Most of us practice that with an 8th note feel, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or even a 16th note feel, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, but there's absolutely nothing stopping you from playing that with a non-native triplet time feel, like this. Triplet, 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 triplet. The first practice track that you'll find on the Patreon page is an example of playing that chromatic exercise up and down, and then changing over to a non-native time feel. Again, this is a really basic way to get used to playing stuff with as many different rhythmic variations as you can. Let me grab some headphones here and demonstrate. Okay, so I'm playing the good old-fashioned 1, 2, 3, 4 chromatic exercise here that we all know and adore. We've got to walk it all the way up the 5th position, then come up a fret and descend down into the 6th position. We're going to start off with the native time feel of this exercise, which to me is 16th notes, meaning I'm going to cram all 4 notes on every string into a single beat. After that, there's going to be a little pause in the drumming right there that's going to transition us over to the non-native time feel of triplets, And we're going to play the exact same exercise, same picking, same notes, same everything, only with its non-native triplet feel. Check it out, this is at 90 BPM. 1, 2, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Listen to the bell for that triplet timing. Triplet, 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 triplet. Through those 16s again here. Triplet, 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 triplet. The minor pentatonic scale is where I learned a lot of my first sequenced licks. It's really easy to play, you got that 2-note per string shape, and it's a scale that kind of everybody knows. So it's the perfect way to start playing around with some of these ideas. For example, I remember one of the first sequence licks that I learned was taking the A minor pentatonic scale and simply walking down 3 strings worth of it, 1, 2, 3, and then going back a string, 1, 2, 3, back, 1, 2, 3, back, 1, 2, 3. Ends up sounding like this. And of course, whenever you play that pattern, the first thing that you feel is triplet, 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 triplet. Same thing if I was walking up. Triplet, 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 triplet. This has a native triplet time feel. That doesn't mean that I couldn't play that exact same lick as 16th notes for some variety. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a. Really cool, and it sounds completely different than playing that lick as triplets. So now I'm getting 2 different licks for the price of 1. Let's check it out with the second demo track that you're going to find on the Patreon page. I'm using the A minor pentatonic scale here. We're going to walk down and up this pattern in its native time feel, which is triplets. Then there's going to be a little drum break that introduces us to the 16th note feel. We're going to play it down and up it again. Let's try it out here at 90 BPM. Triplet, 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 triplet. E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Triplet, 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 triplet. Sounds like a totally different phrase. 3, 4. One of my favorite sequences to use and abuse frequently in my own soloing are what I call straight sixes. There's a lot of different 6-note per string patterns that you can do. Check out my video that I put up a couple months ago called Sick Sixes for some great ideas about some of those. And again, you can take all of those licks and play them with a non-native time feel too and get double the mileage out of them. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is if I take any 3-note per string scale, like for example, this C major scale pattern at the 8th position. And I play up the 3 notes of every string twice. I get a super easy to shred pattern that has a native time feel of triplets. Triplet, 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 and so on. Descending, it would sound like this. Again, your head naturally kind of bobs as triplets whenever you hear that rhythm right there. And again, you can play this really fast if you want to. But you're going to run into certain tempos where a lick played in its native time feel just doesn't work. Like, for example, if I was playing this over a really slow tune and I was playing that lick as triplets, da 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 da, it might start sounding like really lame and predictable, like I was practicing in the middle of a solo, which is the lamest thing that you can do. There's also going to be tempos where it's just too fast, right, to play this as triplets or whatever. In that case, you might want to switch to a non-native time feel and get a more interesting sound out of it that might be a little bit more appropriate for the tempo of the song. I think this is actually how I started messing around with the whole native and non-native time feel thing, is because I had certain licks that I loved and I just couldn't play them at certain tempos. So I would knock it back to either a slower subdivision, like 8th notes, or a faster subdivision, like 16th notes or whatever, and I'd still get to play my favorite licks and they'd have a totally different sound to them. Again, just because your fingers are telling you one thing doesn't mean that your ears have to agree with it. You can easily take any lick that was meant to be played as triplets and instead choose to play it as 16s or 8s or whatever it is that you're looking for. Those straight 6s have a way different sound whenever you play them as 16th notes. Check this out. I'm using a 3-note per string C major scale in the 8th position here, and we're going to walk up and down that 6 notes per string pattern with its native time feel of triplets first. Then the drum break is going to introduce us to the 16th feel, and we're going to play up and down it there too. Sounds and feels way different with that non-native time feel. Check it out. Triplet, 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 triplet. Two, 3 and a 4 and a. Triplet, triplet, triplet. Two, 3 and a 4 and a. Like I said earlier, there's some licks that are tied to a certain pattern, like 4, that just instantly make us think it has to be played with that rhythmic feel. One example of that is what we call ascending 4s. I can take this 3-note per string C scale we were using a second ago and play this with ascending 4s if I do this. Walk up 4 notes and then go back 2 notes. So now we're going to skip back here to the D note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back 2 notes to the E, 1, 2, 3, 4, back 2 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, back 2, you get the idea. Kind of gives you that Brian May, like walking up the steps, then you jump back down a few, then you walk back up some more kind of feeling. This is one of the first sequences that I learned, and I always played it as either 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or 16ths, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, all the time. And it's very predictable because every one of those patterns starts off right on the beat. You can hear the pattern as soon as you hear the lick and it starts sounding predictable. But if we play that exact same lick as triplets instead, the pattern becomes disguised. Check this out. Triplet, 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 triplet. Way less predictable than playing that lick with its native time feel. Let's hear how it sounds with that practice track. Let's finish this off with one more example of a lick that was written with triplets in mind that we can play as 16s and make it sound a lot more cooler. This is one from old Kirk Hammett's toy box. It's a lick that he plays on like every early Metallica solo. It's the minor pentatonic scale in descending threes. And he doesn't pick every note here. He uses some pull-offs and stuff. But it's a great one to practice your alternate picking with if you want to. You've heard this phrase. Again, if you've heard any solo on the first like 3 Metallica albums, you've probably heard him play it. I'll demonstrate here in the A minor pentatonic scale. We're just going to walk down 3 notes and then go back a note. Walk down 3, go back 1. Again, it's a really predictable pattern, definitely meant to be played as triplets. Ascending, it'd sound like this. And again, that's just walking up 3 notes, going back 1. Walk up 3, go back 1. I wore that one out for years with its native triplet feel. Triplet, 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 triplet. Again, it just naturally has that rhythm because of the way the notes are sequenced. I played that for years until I got totally sick of hearing it and started trying to play it as 16th notes instead, and found that it actually sounds really cool. So again, here's how the lick sounds in its natural form as triplets. Triplet, triplet, triplet. It's cool, but we've all heard it. Here's that same lick expressed as 16th notes. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. It sounds completely different than the way that it did whenever we played it as triplets. It's the exact same lick. I was doing the same picking, same pull-off, same everything. The only thing I changed is that rhythmic subdivision. Let's scope it out with that practice track. All right, so we're going to be playing that descending threes pattern in the A minor Pentecostal scale here in the 5th position. And first we're going to descend and ascend with the native time feel of triplets, and then you're going to listen for the drum fill to introduce the new 16th note feel, its non-native time feel. These go by really quick, but you need to get really good at quickly changing between these different time feels, being able to go from triplets to 16ths on a dime. It's a really good skill to have in your soloing to keep your rhythmic stuff really interesting. I've actually gotten to where I like the way that this one sounds with its 16th note feel, the non-native feel, better than I do with the triplet feel. It has this cool like cascading kind of sound to it that I dig and use all the time. Here it is at a very brisk 155 BPM. So there you go, guys, a sick rhythmic trick to double your licks. Hopefully that gives you guys some cool ideas to play around with and expand your rhythmic and phrasing vocabularies. Thanks as always for liking this video and subscribing. Be sure to ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold, and be sure to click the Patreon link in the video description below. Sign up today even at just a $1 a month level and get access to all those practice tracks, bonus lessons, and so much more. Well, it's been fun as always, but now it's time to go shred. Less clicking, more picking.